Welcome to our YouTube channel, where every story contains valuable lessons. Today, let's explore a classic story, a symbol of courage and faith, David and Goliath. The story of David and Goliath is probably all too familiar to many, but have you ever wondered why it has become one of the most powerful symbols of overcoming difficulties in human history? Recorded in the Old Testament of the Bible, this is not merely a story of a battle between a young man and a giant warrior, but also a testament to the strength of faith and will. Imagine the setting, a vast valley where two armies stand facing each other, the Israelis and the Philistines. In front of everyone's eyes, a huge warrior appeared, nearly 3 meters tall, with shiny iron armor and a huge sword in his hand. It was Goliath, the symbol of invincibility. And then, while everyone was afraid, a young man, David, who was just a shepherd, stepped out of the ranks. No armor, no sword, only a slingshot and a few stones. Isn't this action too reckless? Or is there something greater guiding him? David and Goliath is a classic tale of disparities, not only physically, but also in circumstance. But the special thing here is that David is not afraid. His beliefs are so strong that they can transcend all that people consider impossible. Join me in going back in time, back to the Elah Valley, where history has marked one of the most miraculous confrontations. At that time, the country of Israel was in a state of extreme tension. The Philistine army, known for its strength and state-of-the-art equipment, was standing on the other side of the front line, challenging all Israelis. For 40 days, a giant warrior named Goliath came out of his ranks every morning, challenging anyone who dared to face him. Goliath is not only immense in terms of physique, but also a symbol of invincibility. The entire Israeli army, from ordinary soldiers to King Saul, was paralyzed by fear. Meanwhile, in a small village, David, the youngest son in the family, is not a warrior, but a shepherd. David was not on the battlefield, but was sent by his father to bring food to his brothers who were serving in the Israeli army. A young man, without armor and without a sword, but his enthusiasm was immeasurable. Upon arriving at the barracks, David heard Goliath's defiant screams. What sets David apart is the way he sees the problem. While people saw only a large and terrifying Goliath, David saw someone who offended the honor of his people and the faith of God. David asked, "Why didn't anyone stand up and face him?" It sounds simple, but David's biggest challenge is not to face Goliath, but to convince people that he can do the unthinkable. Those around him, including King Saul, initially mocked him. They thought, an inexperienced young man, how can he resist a giant warrior with extensive combat experience? But David didn't let doubt falter him. He told King Saul, "God protected me when I fought lions and bears to protect the sheep. And he will also protect me from this Philistine." This is the time when David's differences are most apparent. With strong conviction, he didn't need heavy armor or weapons. Instead, he carried a slingshot, a simple tool he was familiar with in shepherding. His baggage was not muscular strength, but courage, determination, and intense faith. The real challenge is not whether you can defeat Goliath, but whether you dare to believe that it is possible. Try to put yourself in the shoes of Goliath. You are a giant warrior who is considered invincible by the entire Philistine army. What's more, in the past 40 days, no one has dared to come out and challenge you. Does that make you feel like you can't be beaten? Goliath was no ordinary warrior. According to the description in the Bible, he was more than 3 meters tall, massive, protected by armor weighing more than 50 kilograms, and a huge shield carried in front of him by another person. His sword was long and sharp, but the most terrifying weapon was a spear with a bronze spear tip as heavy as a large pestle. Goliath's appearance alone was enough to make the Israeli army tremble. And not only physical strength, Goliath also has an arrogant demeanor, almost challenging the whole world. He didn't see David as an opponent, but as a joke. When he saw David coming out of the ranks of Israel, without armor and without a spear, Goliath laughed and sneered, "Am I the dog that you came to beat me with a stick? Come here, I will give your body to the wild birds and wild beasts to eat." It is the attitude of a person who firmly believes that he is holding the winnings. Goliath was not only a powerful warrior, but also the embodiment of arrogance, of superior material strength. He didn't need strategy, he didn't need tricks, because he believed that his strength was enough to crush anyone. But it was this overconfidence that led Goliath to overlook an important factor: strength was not only in muscles or weapons, but also in spirit, ingenuity and faith. Goliath only saw a physically diminutive David, but he didn't recognize a strong spiritual warrior standing in front of him. Confronting Goliath, David is not only fighting against an individual, but also a symbol of fear, of injustice and arrogance. This is a strong contrast between the two characters. On one side is Goliath with great strength but arrogance, on the other side is David who is small but full of faith. The question now is, can a young shepherd with a tiny spear in his hand do the unthinkable? Or is this just a vain dream? Do you believe that an ordinary person, with just courage and faith, can do miracles? If not, then join me in witnessing the moment David comes out of the ranks of Israel, facing Goliath. David is not like other Israeli fighters. When everyone was scared and evasive, he stepped up with astonishing calmness. But this courage does not come from recklessness or naivety, but from a firm belief that we are not alone. David believed that God was with him, and that was his greatest source of strength. When King Saul tried to equip David with armor and a sword, he refused. "I'm not used to these things," David said. Instead, he stepped into the battlefield with only a slingshot, a simple weapon he had used in shepherding, and 5 stones picked up from a stream. Imagine the scene: a tiny, unarmed young man standing across from a giant armed to the teeth. The disparity is too obvious. Even the Israeli soldiers standing behind David couldn't believe what they were seeing. But David didn't waver. When Goliath taunted and threatened, David was not afraid. He replied, "You came to me with a sword, a spear, and a shield. But I come to you in the name of the God of Israel. Today, he will deliver you into my hands, and all will know that God does not need a sword and spear to save, for the battle belongs to him." These words are not just words, but powerful declarations. David fought not only for himself, but for the entire nation, and more importantly, for faith in God's justice. He fought not with muscular strength, but with wisdom and steadfastness. This was the moment when David was no longer a shepherd boy. He had become a warrior, not because of weapons or armor, but because of his indomitable spirit. David's appearance on the battlefield not only changed the course of the war, but also changed the way we view true power. And now, the moment that everyone has been waiting for has come. On the vast battlefield, between the two armies, a young shepherd was facing a giant warrior. Who will win this seemingly disproportionate confrontation? Goliath, with his huge sword and arrogant confidence, walked up to David. He looked at David as a joke, sneering, "Come here, I'll crush you." But David was not afraid, nor did he back down. He stood his ground and focused all his attention on his goal. In his hand, there was only a slingshot and a stone, something that seemed impossible to do. But for David, that was all he needed. Imagine that moment. David bent down, picked up a stone from the ground. He placed it in the slingshot, stretched the rope, and aimed directly at Goliath. Contrary to the giant's display of power, David chose to attack quickly and unexpectedly. Phew! The sound of the stone leaving the field, tearing the wind forward. Goliath did not have time to react. The stone slammed straight into his forehead, which was not shielded by the armor. The force was so strong that Goliath fell to the ground. The entire battlefield was silent for a moment. David quickly rushed forward, drew Goliath's sword and beheaded him, ending the battle. David's victory was not only a moment of shock, but also an affirmation that it is not weapons or size that determines everything, but faith, wisdom and courage. The Philistine army, when they saw their strongest warrior being defeated, panicked and fled. The Israelites, thanks to David's bravery, won a resounding victory. This is the moment when history records that an ordinary person can do extraordinary things. David not only defeated Goliath, but also defeated the fear in everyone's hearts. When the triumphal cheers rang out in the valley of Elah, we not only witnessed the defeat of Goliath, but also saw the infinite power of human faith and will. But the story of David and Goliath doesn't stop at just one battle. It also contains profound lessons that we can apply in life. 1. Faith to overcome all difficulties. David stepped into battle not with material strength, but with the spiritual strength that came from faith in God. This story reminds us that, in the most difficult situations, faith can be a source of strength to help us overcome all adversity. Whatever you face, if you believe in your goals and strengths, you can do the unthinkable. 2. Power is not in size or weapon. Goliath is the embodiment of power, muscular strength, and dominance. But David has proven that true strength does not come from size or powerful weapons, but from wisdom, courage, and how we use what we have. Sometimes, the simplest tools, like David's dagger and stone, can make a big difference. 3. Courage comes from preparation and experience. People saw David as a shepherd boy, but no one noticed that he had spent years fighting lions and bears to protect the sheep. Those experiences prepared him to face Goliath. The story reminds us that every small challenge in life is a stepping stone to be ready to face bigger challenges. 4. The importance of humility. Goliath failed not only because of David's stone, but also because of his own arrogance. He did not judge the opponent correctly and did not prepare for any unexpected situations. Here's the lesson of humility: never take anyone or anything lightly. 5. Timeless lessons: anyone can be David. David was not a great warrior when he entered the battle. He was just an ordinary person with extraordinary trust. This reminds us that anyone, whether small or disadvantaged, can make big changes if they take advantage of their strengths and don't give up. So who are you in this story? Maybe you've ever felt like David, small and vulnerable. Or maybe you once thought you were like Goliath, strong but subjective. Whoever you are, this verse reminds us that true victory is not in physical strength, but in how we face adversity with wisdom, courage, and faith. Thank you for listening. If you found this story meaningful, share it and leave your feelings in the comments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay tuned for more inspiring stories on our channel. See you in the next videos.